this mini lecture, I would like to introduce you to two actually very different habitat types: rocky, well-drained woods and seepy meadows. First of all, let's look at the rocky, well-drained woods. These forest types are most common in the Ridge and Valley province of the Tennessee Valley, in the Cumberland Plateau, and in the foothills of the Blue Ridge and Smoky Mountains. They can actually be just simply well drained, but they can also, some of them may actually be rather dry. Now these forests tend to occur on the upper halves of either moderate to steep slopes. That is, the water drains away from the upper parts of the slopes and drains down into the lower slopes, making those moister. So we have drier condition on the upper slopes. Also, the soil tends to erode downhill, so you have thinner soils exposing bedrock, and so you have just the fact that erosion and weathering will break up the rocks. You have a rocky soil, thin, and tends to be drier. These forests tend to be dominated by oaks and hickories, and the actual combination of species of oaks and hickories will depend on the acidity of the soil. Now, in the southern Appalachians, limestone bedrock is most common in the Ridge and Valley province. Limestone breaks down into clays, and the clay here is thin. Therefore, it will not hold onto water as well as, say, thicker clays would. So that's again contributing to the dryness. Because of the clay content, however, the soils tend to be alkaline. As a result, the plants you find here are going to be alkaline-loving plants, things that you might expect to see in, say, central Tennessee, central Kentucky, or even as far over west in the Ozarks. A good example of a plant like that is Lithospermum canescens, which we'll see. Also, these forests tend to be lower stature than other types of rocky woods, and they tend to be invaded by red cedar. Now, as you move elsewhere in the southern Appalachians, you're going to find forests growing on bedrock of granite, sandstone, shale, and chert. So those soils break down into silts and sands. But again, they're going to be thin because of the erosion aspect, and again, rocky with the bedrock exposed. They cannot hold calcium ions as well as clays, so therefore these soils tend to be acidic. So therefore you're going to expect to find those acid-loving plants so typical of the Appalachians, things like azaleas, blueberries, and other heaths. And finally, Virginia, or what we would call scrub pine, is a common invader in these forests, but you may also find commercial pine plantings as well. So that wraps up rocky woodlands. Next we come to the habitat type Seepy meadows. Seepy meadows are controlled by a set of environmental factors, being bedrock configuration, water table, and soil thickness. Now, where the rock strata tilt downhill and then abut a meadow, you have water seeping down between the layers of the rock. And this runs out over the meadow, or may actually form a spring that runs out into the meadow. Other meadows may have very thin soils, and because there's the meadow is right over the top of a level bedrock. Water flowing down slope rides over that bedrock and basically has to evaporate rather than soaking in. Now, the soil that is at the same level as a large stream or a lake will be near the water table, And as a result, it doesn't matter how thick the soil is there, just the water table will be enough in the soil to make it soggy and prevent trees from growing well. And of course, in the spring, where there's higher rainfall, the water table will be even higher. What are the plants like that live in these areas? Well, they must be able to tolerate excess water around their roots, especially for extended periods. And this would allow certain plants like brook lettuce or butterweed to grow well. Standing water tends to create acidic conditions, favoring heaths because of the mist and fog in the mountains. Acidic soil tends to develop in the heath balls where the soil is thin to begin with. And this soil is too thin for the conifer trees to develop, since the conifers are also at high elevation in the mountains. The plants that tend to be in Seepy meadows are those which do not compete well with other meadow-type plants. They need that Seepy condition to exclude their competitors. And this is probably the case for mountain bluets, which we'll see. So there you have the Seepy meadows conditions.